Yo, welcome in. I'm Laurence. Thanks so much for hanging out on the podcast today. We got a lot of stuff that we got to do in a short amount of time. We appreciate you hanging out. The Morning Buzz, that's what we like to do, is brought to you by Remy Martin. Shout out to Remy Martin. Looking forward to doing a couple of events with them as the season winds down and as we get into the new year. It's been a fabulous partnership. And if you are looking to celebrate something, you should celebrate Remy Martin. My favorite Remy Martin drink, and it's, obviously it's a little bit more of a summery drink. Remy and ginger beer, man. I'm telling you, get you right. Enjoy yourself with that. So, thanks to Remy Martin for their support and continued support of what we do over here at House of L. Thanks to you for your interest in the episode with Layla. Man, the last couple of episodes, the views on them have been great. Obviously, there's been major Bears news and us reacting to it, and you guys enjoying our reaction to it has been wonderful. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Bears here too. And just know, like, if you're watching this podcast and we are in Bears season, this is not just a Bears podcast. We talk about media, we talk about the other teams in town. Occasionally, I talk about other things that interest me, like comic books or whatever. I talk about SEC sports because I'm a big Bama fan. At some point, I should probably do a pod about DePaul. Let's see how they do against Texas Tech. But them starting out 7-0 is pretty great. And I promised Brock Spack, the head coach at ISU, that if they found themselves in the playoffs, getting towards a national championship, he should come back on the podcast. And that's going to happen later on this week. I'm excited to talk with him. So shout out to Illinois State. Congratulations to them on their first round win. He's built quite the program down there and shows that happiness can be found in a lot of places. And he said something to me when I asked him, because he's had opportunities to go other places and like be a coordinator at a Power Five school instead of being in an FCS head coach. He's like, why would I do that? Like, I have this great job and I love the place where I'm at. There's lessons in there. You know, I'm 49. I'm still learning those lessons about what happiness actually means. And even in the state of like a career, like what it is that you care about and being where your feet are sometimes. And the routine is not necessarily what is going to make you happy. So I appreciate Brock's back, and I can't wait to have him back on the podcast later on this week. Now let's talk a little bit about the Bears. It's already started. Like, I've seen it inside of the group chat of the Spiegel and Holmes show. I've seen it on other platforms. I don't really want to, I don't know if it does any of us any good other than to get people to check out our content, to be talking about who the next coach of the Bears is going to be, even before we see Thomas Brown coach a game. And I am not of the opinion that he should just be granted the job just because. I am of the opinion that this should be a wide search, that you should look in all sorts of places. You should look for the coaches that are out of work and have been waiting for the right opportunity to jump back in. You should be looking at college head coaches. For real, for real. You should be looking at college head coaches. You should be looking at hot coordinators. You should be looking in your own backyard with Thomas Brown. And I want to focus in on Thomas Brown for this episode and also kind of give a little bit of advice when it comes to us trying to figure out what Thomas Brown is all about for the next couple of weeks. And I know that I'm going to do this too. I just know that I'm going to do it. But hear me out. You're going to hear a lot of comparisons between Thomas Brown and Matt Eberflus. And what I'm here to tell you on today's podcast is that That should not be the bar for Thomas Brown. Thomas Brown needs to make himself look attractive versus the universe of candidates that are going to want the Bears job. Now, some of them are going to want it for the wrong reason, and it might not be about winning. Man, that stuff that Jalen said to us yesterday, man, it really hit home with me. Like when I was driving back to the crib and thinking about it, like the idea of winning trumps all. Like everything needs to be focused on winning. I think is outstanding stuff from Jalen, and I hope he gets what he wants soon. It would be great for him. It would also be great for the rest of us if the Bears were a winning team. But there's going to be this reflex. You're going to see it. It's going to happen. The broadcasters on Sunday are going to say it. This is better than what Matt Eberflus was doing, or you can see that the Bears look more organized than they did under Matt Eberflus. All of those things might end up being true. As a matter of fact, I suspect that all of those things are going to be true. What I'm telling you is that's not the bar. That's not what anyone should get excited about, is whether or not Thomas Brown does a better job than Matt Eberflus, because we have all agreed that Matt Eberflus did a terrible job, right? So him just being better than Matt Eberflus means nothing. It's a question of, is what he's doing, is it sustainable, and will it allow you to feel like you have a head coach in waiting, a guy that is really good? This situation that Thomas Brown is in is fascinating. It really is. I am rooting for him, but I also feel bad for him. And let me tell you why. One, I'm rooting for him because this is an incredible story. Like the idea of a guy that was 3 weeks ago was the passing game coordinator. The quarterback didn't even know his name. To then go to, well, he knew his name, but they hadn't really talked. And Caleb said that. Like, I don't really have a relationship with him. Now he's the offensive coordinator. And then poof, 2 weeks later, he's the head coach of the team. His head has got to be swimming. Whenever I talk with students and the idea of a job that they might not be quite ready for comes up, Professor Holmes, do you think that I can do this job? Yes. The answer is yes. There are going to be some growing pains. If you, even though it might not look like on paper, you're ready for that task. If you're talented and you work hard, you can probably get by until you know exactly how the job is supposed to go. A little bit of fake it till you make it. I don't believe in dream crushing. I'm not into that. So I tell students all the time, if I feel like it'll be helpful for them, to try for those gigs and then see where it goes. But be ready. Like, you have to be on it. And we're going to find out if Thomas Brown is on it. We're going to find out if he's prepared. And everyone always kind of has a plan. Like if you're a coach, especially, you have an idea of what you want to be done, how you want it to be done. The implementation of it is another issue. And it's hard when you're coming in midstream to make severe changes because you don't want to upset everyone else's schedule, even though it might end up being a better way to go about doing things. So I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for him. I want him to succeed. I want him to. This is a really odd situation that he is in, and it's rough. It is rough for anyone who would be put in this position. He's now been put in a similar position 2 years in a row, or two teams in a row, where he had to do this with Carolina, with Bryce Young, and be in charge of the offense, and he kind of wasn't going anywhere. By the way, shout out to Bryce Young. If you haven't been paying attention, the young man's starting to get it. And he doesn't have a ton of talent around him, but he's starting to get it. And that makes me really, really happy. With Thomas Brown, he has to clean up a mess. Now, the good thing is that there are no expectations on him other than, can you keep the offense functional? Can you help Caleb Williams get better at his job? That's what he's got to do. But he's got to do that inside of being the person who also has to make all of the big decisions for this team. He has got to put the schedule together. I don't know if people really understand how like regimented an NFL day is. And luckily, like having been around teams, you get to see, like if you walk into a facility, there are going to be monitors like all over the facility with the times of everything, which is great. Where it'd be like, okay, special teams meeting is at 8:30 a.m. Offensive meeting is at 9:15. A defensive meeting 9:15 here. D-backs a meeting at 9:45 here. Like all this stuff. And that schedule is put together by the head coach. And I imagine that the schedule is going to be reminiscent of what Matt Eberflus did, because it's hard to make that jump for the players. But this thing has been a mess. There's been a lot of losing. There's been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of confusion on what is supposed to be done. Thomas Brown having to streamline all of that in 5 weeks to prove that he is worthy of the head coaching job is a hell of an experiment. But I'm rooting for him. It would be such a great story if he ends up as someone who has been kind of on the fringe head coaching candidate, someone that people are projecting out. That guy's got the thing. I talk about this all the time too with students, like that student's got the thing. Sometimes you just know where you see someone and you're like, they're going to be a star. And Thomas Brown's got a little bit of that. Now he has to put it in practice, and that's not an easy thing to do. So we're going to find out. We're going to find out in those moments of when to make a challenge and when not to make a challenge, or when to go for it and when not to go for it. Who's in his ear? Is that the same staffer that was in Matt Eberflus's ear? These are all questions that he's got to confront over these next few days. I'm glad he got a chance to go see his family, because I'm sure that helped kind of reset where he is. Now it's time for him to go out and play. And I don't want you to be too harsh on Thomas Brown, okay? I just want you to understand that if he's better than Eberflus, that's not saying much. He has to look at it as, I need to do the best job that I can and show them that I'm the best choice out of all of the candidates, all of them. So when names start coming up and you hear Bill Belichick or Vance Joseph, who's turned that Denver Broncos defense around, or Cliff Kingsbury or Dan Lanning or Deion Sanders, all of the names that are going to pop up in connection with this job, it now becomes a thing of, has he proven in these 5 weeks that he's going to be better at the job than those guys? For right now, for those of us here in Chicago, we are going to celebrate that he's better than Eberflus. I'm telling you, that's not enough. Thanks to Remy Martin. Thanks to everyone who listens on Spotify and Apple. We appreciate you. If you are listening on Apple or Spotify, we have the YouTube page. Come be a subscriber. It doesn't cost you anything. And I think I finally got things kind of figured out on YouTube. So thank you to YouTube as well for walking me through some of their processes when it comes to growing this podcast. But thanks to everyone who has supported it. Brock Spack will be on the podcast later on this week as we talk ISU football. And I'll put it on the schedule this way. If DePaul beats Texas Tech, there's going to be a DePaul episode. I'm just saying. I'll talk to y'all next time, okay? Peace.